Hello friends! I'm actually quite embarrassed to be showing you the first part of this video. Today we're going to be organizing the chest freezer here behind me in the garage, and it is a complete disaster. Whew, we have our work cut out for us. Let me just tell you really quickly how the freezer got into this mess. Number one, the baskets that came with our freezer are made out of plastic. They have become misshapen. They no longer sit where they're supposed to sit, and it makes it really hard to keep anything organized or to be able to get anything out of this freezer, and it has been a problem for quite a while now that we need to solve. Number two, my parents have just left Alaska to go back to Arizona for the winter, and they unloaded their freezer into this freezer when they left, and that just means there's a lot of extra stuff in here that wasn't in here before. And number three, summertime is crazy in Alaska. We go all summer. We pull things out and have quick, easy dinners, and there's just been no time to rearrange and make sure that the freezer gets put back together the way that it should. When we come home from Costco, we're just throwing things in. And it is hunting season here in Alaska. We hope to get a moose and maybe a deer, and the freezers need to be organized before hunting season, so we gotta get it done right now. Today is the day. We are going to be transforming this freezer using the Freezermax chest organization system. I'm actually really excited to do this project because I'm hoping this will be the last time I ever have to show you a messy freezer. Just waiting for an airplane to pass over. We are a hunting and fishing family here in Alaska, so we actually have 3 freezers. One here in the garage, one out in a shed, and then our freezer upstairs attached to our refrigerator. And all 3 of them have different purposes, and I like to be able to share them with you at different times throughout the year when maybe they're a little bit more empty or full. But I hope that this is the last time that I have to show you this freezer being a complete mess because of the Freezermax system. So having an organized freezer is actually really important to our family because we eat 99% of our meals at home, and we need them to be quick and efficient and be able to find the things we need. It saves us money because you don't want things going bad in the bottom of the freezer. And when I realized that my freezer had gotten out of control, I started doing some research to figure out how I could better organize it, and I found the Freezermax system and reached out to them and said, hey, I want to represent you. I want to organize my freezer and I want to share it with my YouTube family. So they sent me this system. I'm opening it right here with you. It's been sitting here for a week waiting for the kids to go back to school and calling my name so that we can get the freezer organized before we bring home a bunch of new meat. All right. So the Freezermax system uses a series of rails that you attach into your freezer along with their baskets to keep everything really organized. Now, the exciting thing about these baskets is they adjust to whatever size freezer you need. So we're gonna have them be really large because our freezer is really large, but they also can be used in a small freezer. How ingenious is that? And they just feel really, really well made. And I love all these holes to let air flow. I feel like they thought of everything. When I was looking on their website, I was like, I have to work with these people. So I emailed them and said, hey, I got a project for you. I have the worst freezer imaginable right now, and I know that your system will make it amazing. So this is really exciting. The other thing that speaks my organizing love language is they give you this giant magnet to put on the top of your freezer and label what is in each basket. So when you go to start searching for baskets and having to move things around, you know exactly which basket you're going for. And when your family's helping put things away, you can teach them to look on the magnet and figure out, oh, this is a vegetable, so I should put it in this basket, or this is a meat and I need to put it in this basket. Mind blown. It is so smart. I actually used to do this on my own. I would print out a piece of paper and write where everything was and just use boxes. This is like the dream version of that. I'm so excited. I got the whole system out of the box and laid out here, and now I'm going to watch on my phone the installation process and get to work. All right, it's gonna take some effort and work to get this done, but I'm ready for it. Step one, we gotta go unload the freezer. It is still fall in Alaska. It is about 55 degrees and rainy today, so I can't just use the outside to keep all of the food frozen like I would be able to if it was winter time. But Mark assured me that if I put all the stuff in these coolers and kept them closed for the day, we would be able to just put everything back in afterward. So let's unload the freezer. My goal is to organize as I unload so that when we go back to put it back in, everything that's together in the cooler will be kind of similar items like meat or fish or frozen fruits, frozen vegetables. So I'm gonna try and keep it organized as I unload so that it just makes it easier in the end. An unwrapped stick of butter with bite marks in it. Any guesses on who did that? Oh my goodness. I'm not kidding. This is what has driven me crazy for months. I can't get it out. It's broken. I decided I needed to put on some gloves. My hands are freezing. They're getting so cold. So I've gotten down to the bottom layer of our freezer and it's actually pretty organized. We've always used crates and boxes to organize the bottom layer. That top layer though was such a mess, we couldn't even get down to the bottom layer. It was such a headache. So I'm gonna pull these things out. We have a lot of stuff in here. Another benefit of doing a project like this is you just realize all the things that you have that you may have forgotten about. I just found all the ingredients I need for breakfast burritos, which I was about to go buy at Costco this week again. Now I'm just pulling them out of the freezer. They're thawing out in the sink over there, and I can make breakfast burritos tomorrow, which my boys love for back to school. So that's a win. There's several other things that I'm finding as I'm cleaning it out that I am just gonna cook up. Like I have a frozen lasagna, we're gonna have that for dinner. We just wanna make sure we get through the food that's in the freezer instead of just buying all new stuff. I do have several bags of cheese in there. Don't let me buy cheese for at least a month at Costco. You guys keep me accountable. I don't need shredded cheese. The other thing I can't buy is loaves of bread. I've got a lot in here. We need to eat through them. So here is where we're at. I've got a pile of bins out here. I've got a very frosty freezer over here that needs to be defrosted and cleaned out. Let's do it. So I've unplugged the freezer. I'm gonna leave it open so that it can start to defrost. I am going to hit it with a hair dryer to help it defrost faster. But first I'm gonna gather up my cleaning supplies. I am going to go have some lunch, and then we're gonna come back and make sure that this freezer is squeaky clean before we start the install process for the Freezermax system. I can hardly wait. There is a drainage plug in the bottom of the freezer. It is still frozen, so I'm gonna wait and pull it out after I got some water in the bottom. Luckily, we have a drain right here in our garage, so I'll be able to just drain the water straight out to there. So doing this organizing project today has just filled me with so much gratitude. It's about so much more than just organizing our freezer. Our freezer is full of meat and fish and berries that we have harvested. It's full of Costco groceries, and it just makes me reflect on the blessings that God has given us as a family. I just feel so much gratitude as I'm doing this project to have a freezer full of food. because I'm certain that there will be times in the future where we need to rely on that food. That's why we feel like we need to have a well-stocked freezer and a well-stocked pantry. We're not doing it because we're scared. We just like to be prepared for times in the future where things might be uncertain, whether that is weather here in Alaska, whether that is economic times, whether job loss or injury. We just never know what's gonna happen. So I'm just filled with a ton of gratitude as I'm organizing this freezer and reflecting on all of these blessings of having a freezer full of good, nutritious food. It also makes me really excited for all the cooking that we're gonna be doing through the fall and the winter. I feel like things do slow down a little bit. We get back in the kitchen for longer periods of time. Our kids come in the kitchen and cook, and all that food in the freezer is gonna make that happen, to feed our family, to feed friends, to make wonderful memories and gather people into our home. So it's really helping me get in the mood for fall and a slower pace around here in Alaska during the fall and winter months. Bon appetit. I'm all fueled up. Let's see how far in this project I can get before I have to go do school pickup. It's so satisfying when a big chunk comes off. Yes. It's like a mini iceberg in there. I have to say, getting the ice chunks off the sides of the freezer took a lot less time than I had planned. Blow drying it, and then once I could like get a little bit behind it and just pry it, it just like shattered and all fell apart. I gotta clean out the pieces that fell off. I got a bunch out here on the driveway. This is moving along nicely. And now we deep clean, because if I'm gonna put forth all this effort, I want this freezer to feel as close to like new as possible. We have a little bit of ice cream dripping down the side, a little ice cream melting action we had a couple months ago, but I'm gonna get some hot water. We're gonna scrub this thing down and make it look sparkling new, and then we're gonna have to dry it perfectly so that the rails will stick and we will have an organized freezer. I can hardly wait. Got some hot water, some cleaning rags, a magic eraser. Let's clean this baby up. Oh, already looks better. Pulled the drain plug. Here it comes. While this drains, I'm gonna use a magic eraser and clean the outside. Might as well do the whole thing. So this, like many other projects, kind of turns into if you give your mouse a cookie type situation. Like you start one thing and you have to do about 10 other things to get back around to the first thing you were doing. We're trying to organize this freezer, but since we have it pulled out and cleaned off, we gotta sweep up and clean behind it. So that's what I'm gonna do next while the water's still draining. I found a bag of coins. Is this my This is my payment, $3 in pennies and nickels. Next up, I'm gonna go grab some towels. I wanted to get this thing extremely dry. It even says that you can wipe it down with rubbing alcohol to make sure you get rid of all the condensation. I'm gonna make sure I do this project justice. I've put so much work into it already. I'm gonna do it right. I'm starting to feel like this is a new freezer. It is so clean. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty and she's bright white. Gotta make sure we put the plugs back in. So I just checked, the sides feel really, really dry, but the instructions said that we could use some rubbing alcohol to make sure that any condensation evaporates, and I'm gonna do that just to be safe. Most freezers have an area where there's a condenser encased in the freezer, and that is the case with our freezer. So we're gonna do some measuring to make sure we put the rails in the right place. We're trying to work around this little condenser box right here. So our freezer is actually longer than the 3-foot pieces that they send. These are gonna be our guides for our shelves, but they say that they're easy to cut with a saw, and we're gonna be cutting an extra piece after we install this one to make sure it goes all the way across the freezer. They really have thought of everything when it comes to this whole Freezermax system. So these are our placement guides. They've painted one end of them blue, the other end is just gray, and these are gonna be used to help us make sure that we get our rails in perfectly. So we're gonna take this short side of the shelf and stick it into this placement guide like that. Then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. This way, it will be exactly the same distance from the bottom all the way across. It's genius. No level required. I love it. So on the back of the rail, there's this red adhesive, but I just want to show you without pulling off the adhesive first how awesome this is, because you just stick it in and then you know your level because you're using those guides. I was just rereading through the instructions and trying to decide if I had time to finish it when I looked down at my clock, and it is 3:22 and I pick up the boys at 3:30, so I gotta go. Welcome home, boys!
What? Yeah! Yeah! We are back! 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 It looks like a brand new freezer.
It does. Why are you so dressed up, Everett?
But I was a cowboy!
It was Cowboy Day.
Yeah.
What does a cowboy say?
Yeehaw!
So you go like this? Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
I love you. Oh my goodness, you're gonna knock me over. Brief intermission to get some homework started, but then I'm gonna finish tackling this project. I feel like I'm running up against the clock because I don't want to leave all this food in these coolers for too long. So the boys are reading. I'm gonna see what I can do before I have to go pick up Hunter next. Well, that was simple. The only thing you want to make sure is that, I think most freezers have curved edges. Make sure you pull it in a little bit so that you're not creating a gap where it starts to curve. So I'm about a 1 inch from the side of the freezer so that there's no gap. So you'll see here, there's about a 1 inch gap here because it starts to curve and it wasn't gonna stick properly. We are now gonna have 3 layers of baskets in this freezer, which is incredible. So now it's time to install the second set, and I will be putting extension pieces on, but first we're just gonna set each one in, and on these guide pieces, there's a second notch. This is the notch we used for the first shelf. Now we're using this notch to make sure they're perfectly spaced out. All right, round 2. There we go. This will be the smallest piece we use because it's next to the compressor. And my alarm is going off in my back pocket, which means I have to go pick up Hunter. Whew. Because I gotta leave.
No, what's a character trait?
A character trait is the person kind, nice, brave. Things like that. Those are character traits. Oh. I'm back from picking up Hunter. A lasagna that I found in the freezer is up in the oven so we can have some dinner after this, but I feel like we're racing the clock. I want to get this food put back into the freezer, so I'm going to finish up. I'm going to measure and cut the last 3 rails, and then we're going to put it all back together. 3 rails at 20.5 inches. Let's do it. I'm so excited to put the baskets in now. I'm trying to think through where I want things. I want the things that I use the most often up on the top, whereas things I don't need to get to as often, like berries, I'm gonna put down on the bottom. I'm gonna try and do this really strategically, but it looks beautiful. Here it is with our rails all the way across on both sides. The system is amazing. I only ran into a small problem. Because of where the compressor is, the basket is a little bit too deep. I should have put the shelf up just a little bit. This is a huge freezer. It's also an older freezer, so I may not be able to use one of the baskets, but other than that, it is a beautiful system. And I have 10 baskets in here right now. You could choose to leave one basket off the top and then just be able to slide all of them back and forth, but you can just simply take it out and then slide around to see what's down below. I'm probably just gonna reach out to the company, order a few more rails, raise it up just a little bit, and then I'll be able to use them all. Mark is here to help me reload the freezer. So this basket right here is not sitting properly because of the compressor. So I'm gonna reach out to the company and see if they'll send me new rails, and I'll put them just a little bit higher and then it will work perfectly. So I just put some light stuff in this one. I put tortillas and a couple buns so that they're easy to access. So unfortunately, we found that our upper lip of our freezer is not perfectly straight, and we are pushing the limits of these baskets at the 23 inches. So we're afraid they might fall in, which is the problem we were having before. But I am going to reach out to the company. If they just sent me 2 more rails, I'll just install them below, like right below the opening, and we would have no problem at all. I think it's a super easy solution. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's gonna take me a little bit more work to make it perfect, but I am very happy with today's work. Well, darn, it got a little overcooked while we were down there doing that, but I think it'll still taste good. Lasagna. I am back in the garage, and today I'm going to be finishing the freezer project that we started a week ago. I reached out to Freezermax and they sent me more rails right away. We're gonna get this project done right, and this freezer is going to be amazing. I do have to take everything back out, turn the freezer back off so that we have the proper adhesion on these, but it's worth it because this is gonna be so amazing once it's done. So I'm gonna get some gloves on and take everything out and put them back into my coolers so we can get this project done. Now the reason that we are having to add these extra rails into our freezer is not even Freezermax's fault. We realized that our freezer is no longer square on the top. It's a little bit wonky. So when I made my measurements, I made them on the side and he said, oh, it's gonna fit perfectly. And the baskets did fit perfectly on the side. But the two baskets in the middle kept falling in because we realized our freezer is no longer a perfect rectangle. So frustrating, but thankfully it was a quick solution. I sent an email to Freezermax. They responded immediately, sent me what I needed, and we're gonna have the perfect freezer after this. If I'm being honest, I was kind of dreading that project of getting everything out again, but everything was so organized that I just put each type of thing into one of these coolers, and it's gonna be so easy to put it all back together because it was just so beautiful. I can't wait to see it all done. All right, we gotta wait a couple hours for the freezer to defrost, so there's only just a tiny bit of frost, but we wanna make sure that we get a perfect seal on the final rails. I'll be back this afternoon to finish it up. I left the freezer for a couple hours. Now I'm going to dry it out, and then I'm going to make sure it's extra dry by rubbing some rubbing alcohol, because you wanna make sure it's extra dry, because then these rails stick so well. Mark was a little bit skeptical on how well these rails would stick, but we loaded up our bins with lots and lots of meat, and they stick beautifully. It's just a fantastic system. It is time to add this top rail. This freezer may not seem like much yet, but this next part is super satisfying. All right, friends, we've come to the cherry on top. We are going to put this magnet onto the freezer and label where everything is. They send you this awesome little dry erase marker with an eraser on the end. I'm actually gonna choose to use a wet erase marker because I know my family little fingers are gonna erase all my hard work, so I'm gonna use a wet erase marker. Always an airplane flying over every time I try and film. This is gonna make sure that every time we go to put something away, as well as when we need to get things out for dinner, everyone in the family is gonna know exactly where everything belongs. This system is truly incredible. Like, I am going to be bringing my friends into the garage and showing them my freezer. I'm so excited about it. It's beautiful, it's organized, it speaks to my heart, and I just have so much gratitude to have a freezer full of food. If you have a freezer, this is your chance to go and clean it out, organize it, look at the Freezermax system because it is incredible. If you have a chest freezer like this, it's never gonna be disorganized again because there's a place for everything. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. We are so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you, we love you, we're grateful for you, and we'll see you again real soon for more of This Alaska Life.